Welcome to Folding Towels, a podcast for massage therapists with Jackie and David. If you are enjoying our episodes and want to support the production, consider buying us a coffee. Your contributions help us bring you more insightful discussions and expert interviews. Follow the link in the show notes or visit buymeacoffee.com/Folding Towels podcast to contribute, and thank you for your support.
Hello everyone, guess what? We're back for another wonderful episode of the Folding Towels podcast, and as usual David is here with me. Hi David.
Hi Jackie.
How you going today?
Yeah, pretty well.
That's good. It's been raining a lot here in Adelaide recently, which has been actually really lovely.
It has been a welcome relief. I think our guest today may have something to say about rain and Adelaide's experiences there of it.
Well, it doesn't rain a lot all the time in Adelaide. So, when it does rain here, we generally quite like it.
We had quite a big cloudburst probably 2 weeks ago, and a friend of mine was in Mildura that weekend, where Mildura was dumped with its entire annual equivalent rainfall in one day.
Yeah, not fun. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of rain in a very short time.
It is, especially for an area that's quite flat.
Yeah.
Who are we speaking with today, Jackie?
I'm so excited for today's episode. We have the wonderful Oliver Garside from Rounded interviewing with us today. And for those of you that don't know, Rounded is a fantastic accounting software. And Australian
born.
Yes. From our very own Melbourne.
From
Melbourne. So welcome, Oliver. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, sorry about the MotoGP.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have family in Phillip Island, so it's a bit of a sore point.
Oh, no.
So let's move on from the GP.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me.
Well, we've got a very important question to ask you before we get into the crux of this interview. So, who's your favourite superhero and why? And we're going to add to that, if you could have any superhero ability that would help you to run a business better, what would it be?
Right. Well, yeah. I think of all the questions that you sent me and asked me to prepare for, this was the one I had to spend most time thinking about. And I guess, when I was young, my favorite superhero was probably Superman. But since then, I haven't, I used to love the Christopher Reeve old school Superman movies. But since then, I've sort of haven't really been a great sort of superhero genre fan. So I had to think really hard. So I didn't just come up with, as you said, the Spider-Man or the Batman. And I actually landed on, I thought, what was the last superhero movie I really enjoyed watching? And it was Deadpool.
Yeah.
So my favorite superhero is Deadpool because he's deeply flawed. Mm-hmm. And indestructible. Now, I've only got one of those things. I'll let you work out which one of those it is. But I think that the one of the most important superpowers that any business owner needs is resilience, and slightly to be being indestructible. And as you guys will know as well, you just got to be able to keep going when you don't want to. And so I'd say for me that's probably the superpower that I value the most.
Yeah, better than being a phoenix.
Exactly right.
Mm. Well, we'd love to know a little bit more about you, Oliver. What were you doing before you started Rounded?
Well, I had a career up to that point that spanned originally the UK, and then from the early 2000s, I moved to Australia. But it had been initially in recruitment in various different industries, both in London and then after I'd landed in Melbourne. And then I moved and transitioned into recruitment software. And the last role that I had was with a company called LinkedIn, which you may have heard of. So when they first joined and sort of landed in Australia with intent, They had a product that was sold to recruiters, and I was one of the first people in the country recruited to help go and sell that. And that gave me probably my first insight into a Silicon Valley culture, a startup culture, lots of very smart people who'd done a lot of amazing things. And perhaps sort of got me on that journey of maybe wanting to try something for myself. So that was what I was doing before.
That's really interesting to think that LinkedIn or any other app that we use and know very widely wasn't ever in Australia. Isn't that like just a weird thought to have?
Yeah, I mean, Australia was probably one of the furthest outposts of the LinkedIn empire. And I think, when I joined, they had about 1,000 employees in a couple of countries and relatively small. And by the time I left 5 years later, they had, nearly 15,000 employees across most of the world.
Wow.
So the expansion of LinkedIn was phenomenal, and it was a really fun time to be part of that journey and the growth and the explosion of what LinkedIn did, and how it worked here. It was really fun. But look, in the end, that journey, for a number of reasons, sort of came to an end for me. And so then I chose actually to move on, so that I could, I really felt I was at that point where I wanted to take a risk and try something myself. And I think I chose in the end to leave before I knew what I was going to do, because I felt that I needed to be able to properly understand and assess the opportunities that were in front of me. And when you have the comfort of a salary and health insurance and lots of T-shirts with logos on and trips abroad and all of that kind of really cool stuff that's part of being a tech company, it's really difficult to walk away from. So, but I was at that point where I knew I needed to do it. And so sort of said to my wife, okay, well, coming up to Christmas, this was 2015, and we had planned a trip back to the UK anyway. So I ended my stay at LinkedIn at the end of the year, and we went off to the UK for a few weeks. And I thought, well, I'll come back in January and we'll start looking for the next opportunity then. And that was sort of very early 2016.
So you've gone from like big business into building software for freelancers and sole traders, like some of the poorest of of people. What inspired you there?
Well,
why?
Look. Well, the first thing is I have had nothing to do with the building of Rounded.
Sure.
So I had a friend at the time who was in the technology business, and we caught up one day. He was, we were just talking about what opportunities there were. At that point, I was talking to as many people as I could and exploring opportunities. And he had just put a little bit of money into an app, and he said, "I've got, I've invested in these two engineers, and they're about to launch this app. It's about to be the first iteration of it's about to be finished, but we need somebody at the front end." To to talk to customers and to help sell the thing. And at that point, I knew nothing about accounting. I'd spent my whole life as as an employee, so I didn't really have to think much about tax. I certainly knew nothing about being a freelancer or a sole trader. But I had a look at the app. I met Grant, who's now been my business partner for 10 years. Began to understand his vision and what he had planned, and really it came down to the fact that I sort of assessed everything that I had in front of me, but the app was really good, and there was an opportunity there for me to become a part owner of the business in time, and so really. It was as good a punt as anything else I had at the time.
Yeah.
So I chose, based on the fact that I thought Grant was a really smart guy. The opportunity was right because it was something that wasn't somebody else's. It would be an opportunity for me. And I really liked the product, even though I knew very little about it. It was very well built. And so I just jumped in, and, my wife, who, God bless her, has supported me throughout the whole journey. We sort of agreed, we'll give it 3 months and we'll see what happens. And here I am a decade later, still doing it.
So for people who don't know, or rather who have never heard of Rounded is accounting software built out of Melbourne, basically. It's Australian software. You guys are in 7 countries now, I believe.
So in terms of, that depends whether you're talking about our team or our customers.
Okay, customers.
No, so our customers are only here in Australia. So it's built at the moment for Australian sole traders. Myself and Grant, who's the main founder, and myself, we're based here in Melbourne. Grant's lived in Sydney and as well at different times, but we've always built the software here. We have a fully remote team. Comprised mainly of freelancers and sole traders, many of whom were customers before they joined the team. So Rounded has become also an incredible access to talent, in terms of the types of skills that we've needed. And that team is very literally spread across the world.
Right.
So we have team members in France, we have team members in Serbia, we have team members in the Philippines, we have team members in Singapore. Everybody's able to work fully remotely. So, when you see that we talk about us being in different countries, that's more focused on the team that we have. But the ideas and the design and I guess the company is an Australian company run from Australia.
Wow.
Well, back in 2014, when I was still working full time, but I was just starting to go into accepting money for massage. And you will laugh at this, Jackie. I had a paper ledger.
Well,
you know, I love tech. I had a paper ledger, which then I upgraded to a spreadsheet. And then when I finally made the leap, my bookkeeper said to me, David, it's time to grow up and use some proper software. And I was introduced to Sage.
Yeah.
There's a big problem with Sage and sole traders. It's built for accountants and it's not easy to use. I hated it.
So it's a very important part of the DNA of Rounded. So the original idea was Grant's. He was at the time a freelance creative, so he's multi-skilled with software design, graphic design, filmmaking. Very, very much multi-skilled. He was living the digital nomad life. But still paying taxes here. His business was Australian, but he was taking the opportunity to travel around the world, but still servicing his predominantly Australian client base, doing multiple different things. And he, like you, understood that the options out there in the sort of 2010s and the early part of the 2000s were built for enterprise, built for accountants, not built for use in Australia, and didn't understand GST, too complicated, too expensive, or a mixture of all of those things. And so that was like a lot of software stories, how software companies start, is that the original version of Rounded was built to solve Grant's own problem.
Yes.
Of being able to manage his own freelance business. And so that's how the first version started, and it became apparent, again, it's quite different now, but back then, of course there was zero. And far be it for me to say anything bad against the Sky Blue, but that they're a product that is predominantly built for a small business, and the reporting and regulatory requirements are very, very different than they are for a sole trader. And so part of what makes Rounded really special, and certainly was at the time that we first built it, was that it was really the first Australian product out there to really focus on sole traders. And again, to your point, we use Xero, right? So we can't use Rounded. It's for a sole trader. It doesn't have payroll. It doesn't do things that companies need. So we use a tool that is fit for purpose.
Yes.
And thankfully, we have a finance manager that deals with it.
Yes.
Right. Like if I had to deal with Xero, it would be a disaster because I'm not trained and I don't have a finance background. And so what we find is that many of our customers, not all, but many of our users, and I'm sure that this would resonate with your audience, who, anybody who's in that sort of massage or wellness space, a lot of sole traders are driven by wanting to be great at what they do. They have an innate passion for their skill. They love their clients. They want to run a business, whether that's, for whatever reason drives them, lifestyle, whatever it may be. But they don't necessarily have a great deal of training. And while sole trader tax isn't really that complicated, it can still be, quite overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing. If you layer on top of that a piece of software that is not quite fit for purpose, really quite complex, but also, expensive, it can sort of, lead to, creating more problems than it solves. And so, we've always felt that we wanted to build Rounded for the end user, using our understanding of what sole traders are like and making it making the experience of using it as pleasurable as possible. And that comes down to, not only making it look nice, which, some people can think that, okay, well, that's a bit superficial, but actually, having a piece of software that's nice to look at is very important for usability.
Yes.
And again, traditional enterprise software doesn't really focus on the user interface. It's there to do a job, and you've got lots of grays and all of that kind of stuff. So again, we made sure that it looked good. We also made sure that we, very specifically didn't incorporate functionality that was not required by a core user base. Of course, there's going to be people on the fringes who want more than you provide, but there's a decision there about what you do and what you don't do. And even to the point where we try and de-accountant, make the terminology inside the app less accounting focused and just sort of more pragmatic. And it's like, well, it's not a debtor's ledger. It's a list of overdue invoices.
Yes.
It's not a chart of accounts. It's an expense report. Now, there might be accountants listening to this that will tell me that, well, a debtor's ledger and overdue invoices, it's completely different. And a chart of accounts isn't an expense report. But for a sole trader, it really is.
Yes.
And so we very much, combined the user interface and the user experience with, trying to take the intimidating factor away from using the app.
David and I are both nodding along very vigorously at the moment, agreeing with everything you're saying.
Well, you're a Rounded user, aren't you, Jackie?
I am, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I actually, I can't remember when it was, but I originally, I think my first accounting software that I used might have been Wave, way back in the day.
Yes. And that was free?
It was free, yes.
Is it still around?
Yeah, so Wave was bought by a company called H&R Block.
Right.
And once they were purchased for the princely sum of $500,000 US or something like that, so big money, they decided that they were going to focus on North America. So I think there's still some legacy Wave users in this country who are holding on for dear life to whatever Wave still provide. But that nobody's been able to create a new Wave account in Australia for use in Australia it was COVID, I think, during COVID that they decided to pull back.
Yeah, it was a while back. And then I think I came to Rounded from there because I was looking for software that was similar. And in my search, I found, I guess, the search topic of Wave versus Rounded, which you guys have, not necessarily that one, but you have that on your website, the comparisons to a few different other accounting software, which I think is actually really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that's an element of the SEO. Search engine optimization that we do to help make the business more discoverable, because again, that speaks to the kind of information that people look for on the internet. And obviously, that's changing now. With the obviously the ubiquity of AI that's now layered across Google search. But people will want information about. Well, I'm looking for an accounting software. What's the difference between zero and A and B? And they do that search, and you hope that they discover you that way as well. So standard SEO tactics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, one of the reasons that I personally wanted to do this particular interview with you guys was because this is such a big topic for us in our massage therapy groups. We're always talking about, oh my gosh, GST, accountants, who do I go through? What do I do? Who else is having this problem? Like, it's probably one of the bigger topics that we have. And being a rounded user, which I love the app. I think it's very pretty. I like using it. And for someone that hates anything to do with numbers, like, I actually don't mind using it. That's not to say I'm up to date on my accounting, but I do enjoy using it. And I just think it's such a big topic for us in small business, micro businesses, freelancers. Like, we just really need to get this out in the open more and go, you know what, there is this great software out there that is really quite easy to use and is not going to make you cry.
Well, that's the effect that we're looking for.
Yes.
Well, you've nailed it.
Last year we caught up with Anna Mitchell from That Accounting Stuff, and she's got her own story about falling behind with taxes. And as an accountant, she works with micro business owners, which many of us are, and it's a common story. It's too hard. They don't have time. They're not enthused by it because, hey, we became massage therapists to use our hands, not our calculators. And then people do get caught into trouble when I've got my own story about not accounting for tax and then being sprung with a tax bill. And I've never been so behind on my own bookkeeping as when I was using complex software that just wasn't suitable for my needs. And that was a bit of a scary time.
Yeah, it's a common story that we hear.
Now Oliver's nodding along. Yeah.
Now, what are some simple systems that, or some of those simple workflows that help sole traders to stay organised?
So look, I think obviously this is going to be different for everyone, right? If you look at business admin as a whole, we can see a lot of different usage patterns in the way that people use Rounded, and that could be down to the nature of their business as much as anything else, but it could also be down to personal preference, really, in terms of how you choose to incorporate those sort of administrative burden, I guess, into your day-to-day business. But I'd say, whoever you are and whatever you do, the most important thing, and again, this is whether it's, whatever sort of aspect of admin you're thinking about, regularity is better than, doing small bits of it regularly is going to produce better outcomes than doing it much more sporadically in much bigger chunks. And I like to liken it to, the same as sort of physical training. If you're training for a marathon and you in the 6 months leading up, you go out once a month and try to run a marathon, it's going to be very difficult for you to train and be fit enough that way. But if you run, every week, 3 times a week, a certain number of Ks, and you divide it up and you begin to have that regular discipline about what you do, by the time you get 6 months down the track, the chances are you're going to be ready. And you can think of your marathon as tax time, right? So, do you wait and do all of the work there at the end when, all of your receipts and everything's everywhere and you've got a year's worth of business to remember and to try and fathom and make sense of? Or, do you try and keep on top of it, once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever it may be, again, depending on your business, so that you've been disciplined throughout the year, so that by the time you get to your quarterly PAYG installment or BAS, or by the time you get to your income tax return, if you've got, if you've got that in place, you're much more likely to be able to sail through those sort of, milestones that happen throughout the year for your financial admin. And that's what I would, whatever tools you use, whatever tools are right for your business, I would encourage, finding a way to regularly lean into and focus on the admin side of your business, because ultimately that will save time, and it will ensure things like smoother cash flow. It will ensure things like not losing claimable expenses, forgotten this and that, and not really remembering. So, also the regular repetition will help you, to become more familiar with the process of your business finances as well. So you'll be more effective as a business person. You'll understand your business more, and again, I always think about this. Thankfully, I've never had to use it. For many years, I've done first aid training in CPR for community sports clubs. And in 2 weeks' time, I have to do my first aid training requalification again, which you have to do once every 3 years. And thankfully, I've really never really had to use it, in any meaningful way outside of some ice and sprained ankles and that kind of thing. But when I go through all of the stuff around EpiPens and snake bites and how to fold a bandage properly, and all of the other stuff that they take you through in a first aid course, because I don't have the opportunity to apply it very often, I forget. And I guess that's why they make you do the requalification. And I think, again, business admin, again, it's the analogy that I would use, is that, if you're doing it regularly, if you kind of, you look at it in once every 6 months, all of those connections, all of the things that you did, all of the processes that you had, you kind of got to reteach yourself that every single time.
The
but
workflow.
doing it regularly. So I guess, look, I've waffled on about that. Probably could have said it a lot more concisely. Hopefully your editor's as good. But yeah, like, just regular disciplined application, leaning in is going to be the most important thing.
Yeah. Like any therapist who's taking an extended break will have that moment of terror when they go and stand beside their table and wonder if they can remember how to massage again.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's good advice, though, and I think for some of us that are micro businesses or freelancers, it can be a very big issue that we just get so caught up in doing the things that we do, day to day to make sure the business is running and we're getting that income coming in, that we forget that we have to collate the expenses and do the BAS every quarter, and it's very easy to forget about that stuff. So it's good advice.
It is, and look, I think it's easy for me to sort of sit here on a podcast and say that, but it's also, it must acknowledge that for some people, they are either not able or not willing to do that, and I also think that's fine as long as you are honest with yourself about that as a business owner. So, if you can find a VA or a bookkeeper, for instance, and pay, that person X dollars for however many hours a week or a month to keep your books intact, and that allows you to free up that time, and you can charge more than that by servicing clients or building your business, then of course there's a very easy ROI on outsourcing the stuff in your business that you either just hate, don't want to do, don't feel you can do well enough, because you find it overwhelming or intimidating or whatever it is. So I think the worst case scenario is not doing it, and then not being honest with yourself about why you're not doing it, because that's really when we see people getting themselves into bother, and really not being able to benefit fully from a business because it's not being managed properly, so that, because they are missing out on income or they're not claiming all their expenses or whatever it is. And that kind of impacts the experience of being a business owner as well.
Yeah.
Once you've been in business for a couple of years, you then get the opportunity to gaze into the future as you look back across your past expenses and start to anticipate, okay, in May, I typically pay my membership fees, and in September, my insurance comes due, and what have you. And you can then start to plan and budget for these things without being taken by surprise. So that first year is a bit rickety as all the things come out of the woodwork. After a couple of years, it just becomes a rhythm.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that for many business owners that there are those regular foundational expenses, and you probably also after a while you're able to sort of rely more on regular clients, and so you can say, okay, well, if nothing really changes, I know I'm going to be about here. So, then I can put some money aside, or now I know that, okay, it might be that the Christmas time is, nobody's thinking about it. Everybody's with family or whatever, or goes on holiday. So I know that my client work drops off in December. So I need to make sure that, maybe that's a time that I focus on planning for the next year, and because I know I'm not working so much, but that's also time when I know I'm going to need extra cash because my personal expenses go up and client work goes down. And so you get the opportunity to be able to kind of try and smooth out that, lumpy cash flow that many sole traders experience quite often.
Is there anything exciting happening in Rounded's future, Oliver? Do you have, I'm sure you do, but is there anything you can tell us about?
Right now, I don't know if this is going to be anything that would be used specifically by your audience, but right now we are very close to releasing a brand new app, actually, which would be a kilometre tracker.
That's exciting.
For tracking business kilometers. So I guess, if your users if your audience, it might be relevant for them if they go and perhaps do work at a client's house, maybe. They might, I'm not an accountant, so nothing I say on this podcast can constitute tax advice. Please talk to the ATO or your accountant.
Yes.
But as an example, it might be that maybe those kilometres from their place of work to a client's site, or from point A to point B, are something that can be claimed legitimately as a tax expense, because obviously there's the use of a vehicle, the use of fuel, so on and so forth. And so, kilometre tracker is something that our mobile users, it's the most requested feature that we don't have, and so we've built it as a separate app. That does two things. One, it calculates the kilometres from A to B, and then it has a calculation in the back end that allows you to choose from the methods that the ATO stipulate you must use to calculate the value of your kilometres travelled, and then add that to your tax return. So that's, there are a few standalone, there are a few sort of competing apps that are already out there in the marketplace. It's not new from a technology standpoint, but for us, it's something quite new, and the first time we will have released a new standalone app for many years. So it's quite exciting.
Keeping all the information across one platform does make life a whole heap easier.
Yes.
That is exciting.
The idea behind it.
Yeah.
And we do have mobile therapy is a big thing here in Australia, both regionally and in the cities. So I think you'll find a lot of people very interested in that.
Well, yeah, I would say if people are, tracking kilometres and they are told by their accountant that, it's legitimate for them to claim business kilometres as part of their tax return, then this will be something that they could use as a tool that eventually will also integrate. Once we've got it launched and polished, it will integrate with the main Rounded app as well. So all of that expense information will just push straight in to the dashboard and be included in the Rounded figures. So perhaps we can let you know once that's available for public consumption, and
Yes.
you can tell us what you think.
Wonderful.
That'll be great.
So given that this was a user requested feature, how are you interacting with your users, and what are they saying?
Well, we have a number of different ways that we talk to our users, and we talk to them often daily. The main support channel is run via live chat. So we have a widget that is connected both to the website and the app that allows Rounded users to connect directly with us. That allows us to share tips, instructions, articles, videos, however users like their support. And we often get feedback via that channel. But also within the app, there is a product roadmap and feedback forum that's sort of slightly separate but can be reached from inside the app. And that's a place where we encourage conversation about product features. We encourage users to come to us with their ideas and things that they want. We encourage them to comment. We encourage them to upvote other people's ideas. And, over time we see things that filter to the top, and, and so we use that not as the sort of the cast iron arbiter of what we decide to build or what we want, but we certainly use that to take a pulse to understand, over a longer period of time, what seems to be filtering to the top. What do users want, and that often changes through obviously the things that we build and we can tick off the list, but also that can often be in reaction to things that happen externally with other apps. The advent of new technology, AI, that kind of thing can often change the nature of the feedback that we get and the things that users tell us that they want. But that's also really sort of interesting. It's also an interesting part of running a software business, and again, maybe slightly like massage, when especially if a user says, "Oh, look, my back hurts." But that's a problem with the knee or the foot or something, and it's translating up into a different part of the body. A user will say, "Well, I want it to do this," and we have to understand, like, do they really, like, what outcome are they looking for, and is what they're telling us they want, is that the best way to do it? Or can we actually think of, if you sweep away all the noise around the outside, like, what does this boil down to? And so, we spend a lot of time listening to what our users say, thinking about what they're telling us, trying to understand that in a context that allows us to prioritize it, because, we'll have hundreds of feature requests, and the nature of a business like ours is we in the main, we have to focus, certainly for big projects, on features and functions and aspects of the app that are going to benefit the most people possible. And often we'll find if a user wants a button to be green, not red, then we could change it to green, but then all the users that liked it as red would start complaining, right? So we don't solve a problem for anybody by just doing that. So the whole sort of heap of consideration and thought that goes through, that goes around making product decisions, that's based from users feedback. So it's unbelievably useful, and we encourage as much of it as we can. The flip side of that is we can't always act on all of it, and sometimes we have to translate it into something that's kind of more would have a broader application across the user base.
For sure. As they say, you can't make everybody happy all the time.
No, you certainly can't.
You can if you're a massage therapist.
Maybe. Almost.
Yeah.
You guys have a blog as well. And I know this because I get the emails and I do read most of them.
Yeah, look, the blog's interesting. There's something that's sort of changed. The nature of blogging is different now. The blogging is often about, again, the blog is about understanding the psychology of the audience that you wish to influence, and partly is part of the blog is about having content that directly relates to questions that we know people ask. Part of it is thought leadership and making sure that people understand that we're, who we are, and who we're there to support and help. When people are, trying to work out, like, accounting software is not an impulse purchase. People will take their time. They will consult people they know. They will consult the internet. They'll talk to their accountant. They'll do free trials. And so, making sure that when people come to Rounded and they see the information that, that really what they're asking is this product for people like me?
Yeah.
And so being able to answer that really clearly to say, yes, and this is why, is key. So again, there's a lot of thought that goes behind the content, the way that blog content is being consumed and used by AI these days is sort of, meaning that we're sort of looking at revamping a lot of that content because quite frankly, it doesn't come up anymore. And people don't click anymore because of the way that Google uses AI. Everybody's straight in at the snippet, and they just want the answer there. So, as it used to be, not so long ago, that the success of a blog was all about clicks through from Google through to your platform, and you would hope that would be enough to get people, into your funnel and to understand what you were all about. But the game's changed now, and so we're trying to shift and adapt with it. It's always fun and games.
Looking ahead 5 years, what do you think the most successful sole traders are doing differently from those who struggle?
That's a really good question, and I think the answer to that will come down to technology, because that's really the one thing that's changing the most. I'd say that for the good thing for a massage therapist, right? Is that unlike if you're a graphic designer, AI in itself is not going to take over the job that a massage therapist does. But if I'm a customer, I know that I can go on the internet and get a semi-passable logo or a blog post or something for a few bucks, as opposed to engaging with a professional. Now, it may not be as good, but it may be good enough. And that's something that people are seeing. So I think embracing technology is going to be a key to that. I don't know if it's the same, but we see in many other industries, the younger generation coming through, they're all completely mobile native. They're all used to having apps for everything, and now with the way that technology is going, that there's even that a lot of the things that people traditionally struggle with running a business, the things that we've spoken about, will increasingly be managed, in a different way. And that's not to say that you still don't need to be across your business and understand things, but that there will be. I think that the most successful sole traders will have the most time available to them to focus on building their businesses. And they will have a suite of tools in place that are calibrated to being their back office.
Mm-hmm.
And, those tools increasingly will be able to be, configured or set up to meet that business owner's very specific needs. And the people that are across the technology understand how to use it and understand how it relates to them and their business. And I think that goes back to the point we were talking about before about filling the gaps. What is it that I do want to do? What is it that I don't want to do? And now what I don't want to do can be managed by, all of this technology. I think the most successful sole traders, if you look, not talking about any specific demographic, but the most successful sole traders will be using technology in the best way, and allowing them to focus on building their businesses, as much as possible.
If you're advising someone starting a solo business tomorrow, what are 2 or 3 simple habits and financial habits that would make the biggest difference over the first few years?
Number one, and this has always been number one, and it's never changed: get a business bank account. Mm-hmm. That is the singular. I guess that's the most important thing, and the most basic thing, outside of getting an ABN, of course, because what we still see often that many of our customers will for whatever reason use a personal bank account, but what that does is instantly increase the admin burden.
Yes.
Okay, like having to filter through coffee shop and McDonald's and Netflix and all of that stuff.
Yes.
Obfuscating the business transactions, increasing the possibility of things getting missed, adding to the time it takes to filter through stuff that's not really for business. The most simplest thing, and I think that there's no shortage of free or very low cost options when it comes to business bank accounts. The one thing that is going to really, instantly make a difference and allow you to be able to see your business for what it is a business bank account. The second, as I think I've already said, is and this may change over time, but try to be honest with yourself about the things that you do want to do and the things that you don't want to do. Some things that there will be, there'll be a challenge there to learn, and you'll enjoy that journey. Some things will just be things that will be like walking over broken glass and you just don't want to do. And it may be difficult at the start because you don't have much revenue or much of a client base. But if you're honest with yourself about that, there will come a time where it's like, right, it makes sense now for me to outsource this and I can focus on making my business better because I just don't want to do it or I can't do it or whatever. So, really, I'd encourage people when they embark on a business, think about not just what you do, being a massage therapist, but think of all the other things that come with running a business that you may find, you may love, you may feel, you may be motivated for whatever reason to want to be right on top of it. But if you do get to that point that you really don't want to, then don't kill yourself over it. Just work out a way to have somebody else do it, so that you can focus on something else. So that's 2, and number 3. I think the one thing that maybe from a personal perspective, because I had no experience of running a business before I started Rounded, and there's perhaps a potential, and maybe this is me, I don't know, but there's certainly a lot of chat I find across the sole trader industry around imposter syndrome. People not feeling that they're quite up to it, or you get that feeling if you go to a networking event that everybody else seems to be like way more advanced and way more across everything that you need to be than you are. But I think the one thing I've learned is that in the main, most people who run their own business are making it up as they go along. Some people are just better at doing that than others.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize that, like, not to sort of be intimidated or worried when I feel like I'm doing that, which is often the cause of imposter syndrome, because that's actually the fun bit. Now, that's actually the bit where you've got the freedom to do what you want to do. And as long as you are, able to admit relatively quickly when you get things wrong, nobody's giving you a bad performance review, right? It's your business.
Yeah.
But I'd encourage people to think about that opportunity when you feel like you're making it up as you go along. That's the fun bit. So I lean into that.
I adopted the expression, and nobody died, when I'm trialing new things. Like, I tried this, it didn't work, and nobody died.
Yeah. And now I know a bit more than I did before I tried it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It may have cost me time, it may have cost me some money, maybe a bit of pride, but nobody died.
Yep.
That is such great advice. Life is meant to be fun, at least a little bit fun.
A little bit.
At least a little bit. Maybe not the tax part, but all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And, if you're regular with your admin, tax doesn't have to be that hard either.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you need
not saying it's ever going to be fun, but it doesn't have to be that hard.
And if you need a bit of a kick in the right direction, we'll just give Anna another plug. Anna Mitchell from That Accounting Stuff does run her little Baz parties. Yes. It's not that they get done for you, but you can sit there with other people who are feeling overwhelmed and just get it done.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Absolutely.
If listeners are feeling overwhelmed by the admin side of running a business, what's the first step they should take this week to get things under control?
That's a really good question. So if you're at the point of being overwhelmed, not just through perhaps a volume of things that need to be done, rather if you're just sort of at that point where you really don't know where to turn, my advice would be, if you're coming to, if it's around sort of business finances, speak to your accountant if you have one. Accountant should be a good accountant will understand your business. They'll understand your challenges. They would have had experience of dealing with those things before, and hopefully they can help you work through things and make you, get you to a point where you're back on track. If you don't have an accountant, finding one is finding a suitable one can sometimes be challenging. We get asked about that all the time. But maybe in the first instance, also you can talk to the ATO. The ATO has a call center and a lot of resources on its website that are aimed specifically at small businesses. And again, if it's at the point where you're behind on your tax, or you are worried that you're going to fall foul of ATO deadlines and things like that, the most important thing is to talk to the ATO. Mm-hmm. If you wait until they come knocking at the door, things are going to be far worse than if you go to them and say, "Hey, listen, I've messed up, or I've fallen behind, or it's really overwhelming. Can you help me?"
Yes.
And usually, that they're really, really, really open and really good at doing that. Hope you get across that initial hurdle, you get yourself back on an even keel, and then again, it's about being honest with yourself and saying, "Okay, well, what was missing there? Okay, well, I was using a spreadsheet and I just got too busy and then the whole thing fell apart. Okay, so maybe it might be time to have a look at some accounting software, or, I've got an accountant, but doesn't really seem interested in working with me because they work with small businesses and don't really give me the time of day. Okay, well, maybe you can see if you can find an accountant that specializes in working in sole traders and have somebody that can help you. Maybe it's, like I knew I had all of this paperwork and I just didn't have the time to do it. And now I've got this massive thing and it's just overwhelming. Well, again, maybe a bookkeeper or a VA, all of which can be hired online. And there's a lot of great sole traders out there that are, Australian-based bookkeepers, VAs, very easy to find. Maybe it's having somebody on your team that for a couple of hours a week gets rid of that, that admin burden. So, if you are feeling overwhelmed, there is a multitude of resources out there, and encourage you, definitely, don't try not to have sort of sleepless nights and those sorts of things that are built around perhaps some gaps in your business admin or your finances or those sorts of things, because there's a lot of help out there.
Mm-hmm.
There is. Good advice.
Yes. Don't let embarrassment, shame, and pride get in the way of being in a better place.
So true.
Yeah.
Well, I really want to say thank you so much for chatting with us today, Oliver. This has been wonderful, and you have some great advice for us as well. Lots and lots of wonderful things. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Hopefully that was of some use and of interest to your audience.
Where can our listeners go to find out more about Rounded?
Rounded.com.au would be the first place.
And there's a 30-day free trial.
So any of them that would like to try Rounded free for 30 days as a friend of the Folding Towels podcast can sign in through the link. No credit card required. It's a complete free swing, unrestricted trial. Try all of our features and see what you think. And, if you've got any questions, our support team is there from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Daylight savings at the moment.
Yes.
On Monday to Friday, and then 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight savings on a Saturday.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
I love that there's no credit card required. There's no nasty surprise if you do find yourself clicking out after 31 days.
No, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. Ask us, or you can delete your account and all the data. So we don't want to hold on to any of that kind of stuff, or we're happy to do that and give you an export of anything that you put in there. So it's we just try and make it as easy as possible, and for you guys to get set up, understand the value that Rounded adds, and just talk to any questions. Talk to the great customer support team that are online. They usually respond within. I think our average response time is about 30 seconds. So and they're real people, not chatbots.
They are very quick and always a real person. And I'm always surprised whenever I have a little question or I'm looking for something. And sometimes I think it's been Michelle lately that has been chatting with me. Yeah. And she's like, I'm so happy that I could help you. And she's just wonderful to talk to.
Yep, they're a great team, and they work very hard on the front line to keep Rounded customers happy. So we're it's a big part of the Rounded experience.
Yeah, it's such a great app. I love it.
Well, Oliver, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a really valuable interview for our listeners, especially those who are navigating the business side of being a sole trader. And many of our listeners are in their very first year of being a massage therapist and a small business owner. So if people want to learn more about Rounded, to give it a try, they can head to rounded.com.au, 30-day free trial, no credit card required.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in again, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, David. Thank you, Oliver.
Thanks, Jackie. We'll see you in the next one.